of that intense bliss of the life worlds, the king steps into the realm beyond, the realm of mind. First, it is the little mind, limited to objective things, small things, always reasoning, not admitting knowledge beyond itself, and as he describes, is a million faces wears her knowledge here, and every face is turbaned with a doubt. Our mental knowledge is such that every statement, every conclusion is turbaned with a doubt. What we believe today, we question tomorrow, and day after tomorrow dismiss it as false. There is no finality to our mental knowledge. He sees that mind as it functions in its primitive beginnings is narrow, unsure, and passes next to the world of the greater minds, where ideas, concepts, they rule in their largeness. Still, they cannot reach up to the truth. There is a level where the mind has to stop. But still, the mind, the higher mind, goes as far as it could. Thereafter, he enters into a realm of the self of mind. The whole mental dominion, there is a self. And when you touch that self, on the frontiers of mind, when you silence your mind, make it quiet, quieten the emotions and feelings, after that practice, you arrive at a frontier of the mind, what are called the gates of the transcendent, where you break into another sphere. There is no movement. Everything is at standstill. The entire movement of world looks like a shadow, and only the self looks real. Now this is an experience which is so overwhelming that many seers and mystics have taken it to be the ultimate truth, non-existence, a zero. That's the truth. The world is a seeming truth. So they have erected philosophies, thought that the world is an illusion, that the world is like a passing show. The truth is that the self, which is not involved, which is never moving, which is still. And it is people who have got something of this experience, who deny anything positive in this world, who think that the entire truth is in the silence, in what they called deconditioned mind. They think that thought process, cognitive process, cogitations, ratiocinations, they are all conditioning of the mind. Stop that process and you have the truth. A Zen master will come and he will shock your mind in some unexpected way, and when the mind is stunned, the process of the mind stops and you feel in a blank. You feel absolutely a kind of zero. They say that's the reality. Now this is a truth, but a partial truth. not the ultimate truth. It is a beginning of a new realm, where the old ceases and the new begins. The cup has to be emptied before it can be filled anew. And when the human mind arrives at this frontier of consciousness, where it has to exceed itself, there is this zone of blankness, nirvana. But that is not the ultimate truth, because beyond that are the kingdoms of the divine glory, of knowledge, power, bliss. All these splendors of the divine, they come once the being is ready and founded in a solid peace, because otherwise the being can't bear it. Now here, he says, he came alone with an enormous self of mind, which held all life in a corner of its vasts, omnipotent, immobile, and aloof. In the world which sprang from it, it took no part. It gave no heed to the pains of victory. It was indifferent to its own defeats. It heard the cry of grief and made no sign. Impartial fell its gaze on evil and good. It saw destruction come and did not move. It was indifferent. It was aloof. This country of the self of the mind is a destination where everyone who seeks the upward route towards the divine consciousness arrives at some stage or other. And Ashwapati waits for that thing to settle, and then he arrives at a place where there is the soul of the world. Now the world soul is involved in the world movement. There is a soul which is one, holding and supporting the entire world movement. And there he hears this summoning voice of one long known and loved. There is a familiar, a hidden call to unforeseen delight. And there Sri Aurobindo describes the different forms in which he hears this celestial sound. Now, this passage describes also the various sounds which a person who does yoga may hear. When you meditate, when you go deep, you may hear certain sounds which are not physical sounds. There are sounds that are recognized in the yogic tradition, 8 or 9 of them. And those sounds he has incorporated here. He says, the immortal cry ravished the captive ear, then lowering its imperious mystery, it sank to a soul. It seemed the yearning of a lonely flute that roamed along the shores of memory and filled the eyes with tears of a longing joy. Here you hear the notes of flute. The flute notes, are sounded by Krishna, the Lord of delight. God calling human souls to its rendezvous with the divine. He is the shepherd. He is the cowherd. The cows are the human souls. He calls them. He wanders on the shores of a river. Here he drives on the shores of memory. And it is a summons, it is a call, it is a celestial call to human souls to wake up and come. That is why the lonely flute, it has certain vibrations which are unearthly, which are heavenly for those who are sensitive. The call of the flute is always the character and the quality of the call of the Lord, the captain of our journey. That is one. The flute. A cricket's rash and fiery single note, it marked with shrill melody, night's moonless hush, and bet upon a nerve of mystic leap, its high insistent musical leap. Cricket, it goes on in a sounding. That also is yogi sound, which you may not be in cricket outside, but you hear. Or a jilly silver laugh of anglers, roads of a solitary heart. That is a brook, a bar drum. It walks in the forest, and it ties to the neck, and they go the bells on gently. Now you also hear the sound of bells. There is its dance the eternal loneliness, or from a far harmonious distance heard the ticking pace of long caravan. A long procession occurs. There is a rolling out. You hear that in your concession. It's at times or a vast forest hymn, a whole forest singing a hymn. That is crescendo of a hymn you hear. Or some reminder of a table gong. That's so the sound you may hear. Or a bee croon drunk in summer isles, like the crooning of the bees. That also you hear in yoga. Ardent with ecstasy in a slumberous moon, or far and pilgrim sea, the waves of the ocean, that sound you hear. So these are certain authenticated yoga sounds that one hears, not necessarily all the sounds. Sometime or other, we hear either this or that. When we arrive at a particular border of consciousness, maybe any of these, and he describes these are the sounds which in the world of the self of mind, the king hears the voice and the silent soul of all the world was there, a being lived, a presence and a power, a single person who was himself and all, the divine being who is there the center. He is not only the center, but he is also the all. And cherished nature, sweet and dangerous throbs, transfigured into bits divine and pure. Every human experience, every world experience is transmitted there at that level into divine beats, pure and celestial. And in that world, body was not that. The world itself, for body needed not. The soul itself was its own deathless form, that at once death of other souls. But need a body to receive the touches of us in that world. The soul itself functions, self-bodied, and in that world, in that world of the self, you follow where beings, when they die, their souls repair. After the human soul sheds its physical body, after it completes its transit through the evening planes, worlds of subtle physical, life, mind, sheds its sheaths, the subtle sheath, the vital sheath, the mental sheath. After these things are worked out and shed, the soul goes to what is called the psychic world, the world of peace, the world of sleep. It is there that all these souls rest, and in that sleep, which is a conscious sleep, they assimilate the past experience of lives and, helped by the angels of the world, prepare for next birth. And he says, the beings that once wore forms on earth sat there in shining chambers of spiritual sleep, passed by the pillar posts of birth and death. Past was their little scene of symbol deeds. Past were the heavens and hells of their long road. Each man creates his own hell and own heaven. So the soul has to pass through its self-created heaven, self-created hell, before it is freed to enter into this world of rest. They had returned to the world's deep soul. All now was gathered into pregnant rest. Person and nature suffered slumber change. In trance, they gathered back their bygone selves. In the background, memories foreseeing muse, prophetic of new personality, arranged the map of their coming destiny's course. It is there in that world and poise of rest that they arranged the map of their next destiny. Heirs of the past, their future's discoverers, electors of their own self-chosen lot, they waited for the adventure of new life. Them all those he sees, how they are preparing themselves for their next incarnation. And under the watching eye of nameless gods, his soul passed on, a single conscious power, towards the end which ever begins again. There is no end, there is no beginning. It is an endless moment. Approaching through a stillness dumb and calm to the source of all things human and divine. He goes to that source. There he beheld in the mighty union's poise the figure of the deathless two in one. In the Indian mythology, a great spiritual truth is presented in the figure, imagery of two bodies, male and female in one day. That part is half female and half male, symbolizing that every creation there has to be two. Without creation, without manifestation, it is one. With no manifestation, it renders itself to two. The dynamic and static, the sanctioning and executive, what you call in modern scientific language, the positive and negative. Now these two archetypal two in one. He sees the original figure, a single being in two bodies clasped, a diarchy of two united souls, seated, absorbed in deep creative joy. The trance of bliss sustained the mobile world. But the two in one are not the ultimate truth. Behind them in a morning dusk one stood, who brought them forth from the unknowable. Ever disguised, she awaits the seeking spirit. The Divine Mother, Creatrix, she is there, behind two in one. Watcher on the supreme unreachable peaks, guide of the traveler of the unseen paths, she guards the austere approach to the alone. And she is there, all the gods. Above them all and supporting all, the sole omnipotent goddess ever veiled, of whom the world is the inscrutable mask. The ages are the footfalls of her tread, the happenings the figures of thoughts, and all creation is her endless act. He saw the mystic outline of a face. He can't see the decipher figure clearly. He saw the mystic outline of a face, overwhelmed by her implacable light and bliss. An atom of her illimitable self, mastered by the honey and lightning of her power, tossed over the shores of her ocean ecstasy, drank the deep gold spiritual wine. He cast from stillness of his soul a cry of passion and desire, and surrender of his boundless mind. He fell down at feet, unconscious, prone, so overwhelmed by that experience. He fell down unconscious, prone.
In 15 minutes. I'm informed that the lunch is now ready, and it will be served.
Let's do this one.
Okay, I'm informed that it will be 5 minutes. What I suggest that you do is take a tour of the deck around, and out in front decide where you want to eat.
A stillness absolute, incommunicable, meets the sheer self-discovery of the soul. A wall of stillness shuts it from the world. A gulf of stillness swallows up the sense and makes unreal all that mind has known, all that the laboring senses still would weave, prolonging an imaged unreality. Self's vast spiritual silence occupies space. Only the inconceivable is left. Only the nameless without space and time. Abolished is the burdening need of life. Thought falls from us. We cease from joy and grief. The ego is dead. We are free from being and care. We have done with birth and death and work and fate. O soul, it is too early to rejoice. Thou hast reached the boundless silence of the self. Thou hast leaped into a glad, divine abyss. But where hast thou thrown self's mission and self's power? On what dead bank on the eternal's road? One was within thee who was self and world. What hast thou done for his purpose in the stars? Escape brings not the victory and the crown. Something thou camest to do from the unknown, but nothing is finished and the world goes on, because only half God's cosmic work is done. Only the everlasting No has neared and stared into thy eyes and killed thy heart. But where is the lover's everlasting yes and immortality in the secret heart? The voice that chants to the Creator fire, the symboled Om, the great assenting word, the bridge between the rapture and the calm, the passion and the beauty of the bride, the chamber where the glorious enemies kiss, the smile that saves, the golden peak of things. This too is truth at the mystic fount of life. A black veil has been lifted. We have seen the mighty shadow of the omniscient Lord. But who has lifted up the veil of light? And who has seen the body of the King? The mystery of God's birth and acts remains, leaving unbroken the last chapter sealed. Unsolved the riddle of the unfinished play. The cosmic player laughs within his mask, and still the last inviolate secret hides behind the human glory of a form, behind the gold eidolon of a name. This was the case with the king. He had achieved a certain extinction of ego, of desirelessness. He had achieved a certain barren spiritual victory. But that wouldn't satisfy the soul, because only half the God's work is done when we are liberated. Much has to follow after one is liberated. One has to fulfill the intention of God. So Ashwapati, the king, yearns, and even while he stood on being's naked edge, and all the passion and seeking of his soul faced their extinction, in some featureless vast, the presence he yearned for suddenly drew close. The divinity, on seeing whom he had fallen unconscious, that presence draws near. The formless and the formed were joined in her. It is neither form nor formless. Both were joined. Immensity was exceeded by a look. A face revealed the crowded infinite. She is the golden bridge, the wonderful fire. The luminous heart of the unknown is she, a power of silence in the depths of God. She is the force, the inevitable word, the magnet of our difficult ascent. the sun from which we kindle all our suns, the light that leans from the unrealized vasts, the joy that beckons from the impossible, the might of all that never yet came down. All nature dumbly calls to her alone, to heal with her feet the aching throb of life, and break the seals on the dim soul of man, and kindle her fire in the closed heart of things. All here shall be one day her sweetness home. All contraries prepare her harmony. Towards her our knowledge climbs, our passion gropes. In her miraculous rapture we shall dwell. Her clasp will turn to ecstasy our pain. Our self shall be one self with all through her. That is the presence, that is the divine form that came near her. When he saw that, he yearned to call her forever down, her healing touch of love and truth and joy, into the darkness of the suffering world. The king remembers the suffering world from where he has ascended, and this glory and this might he seeks and yearns to call down into the suffering world for humanity. His soul was freed and given to her alone. His aspiration is not for himself, but for the world. He is not content to have to realize her for himself, but he seeks that she should come down. But she appears, she talks, she speaks to him that everything has to be left to time, that truth brought down too soon might break the earth. Leave it to nature, leave it to the will. In course of time everything will be fulfilled. She tells him, let not the impatient titan drive thy heart. Ask not the imperfect fruit, the partial prize. Only one boon to greaten thy spirit demand. Only one joy to raise thy kind desire. Above blind fate and the antagonist powers, moveless there stands a high unchanging will. To its omnipotence leave thy work's result. All things shall change in God's transfiguring hour. August and sweet sank hushed that mighty voice, but Ashwapati's heart replied to her. A cry amid the silence of the vasts. How shall I rest content with mortal days and the dull measure of terrestrial things? I who have seen behind the cosmic mask the glory and the beauty of thy face. Hard is the doom to which thou bindest thy sons. How long shall our spirits battle with the night and bear defeat and the brute yoke of death? We who are vessels of a deathless force and builders of the Godhead of the race. Or if it is thy work I do below, amid the error and waste of human life, in the vague light of man's half-conscious mind, why breaks not in some distant gleam of thee? Where in the greyness is thy coming ray? Where is the thunder of thy victory's wings? Only we hear the feet of passing gods. And he goes on pleading, asking her. His prayers sank down in the resisting night, oppressed by the thousand forces that deny. But there arose a wide consenting voice. The spirit of beauty was revealed in sound. Light floated round the marvelous vision's brow, and on her lips the immortal's joy took shape. O strong forerunner, I have heard thy cry. One shall descend and break the iron law, change nature's doom by the lone spirit's power. A limitless mind that can contain the world, a sweet and violent heart of ardent calms, moved by the passions of the gods shall come. All mights and greatnesses shall join in her. Beauty shall walk celestial on the earth, and in her body, as one is homing, delight shall sleep in the cloud net of her hair, and in her body, as one is homing tree, immortal love shall beat his glorious wings. A music of graceless things shall weave her charm. The streams of heaven shall murmur in her laugh. Her lips shall be the honeycombs of God. Her limbs his golden jars of ecstasy. Her breasts the rapture flowers of paradise. She shall bear wisdom in her voiceless bosom. Strength shall be with her like a conqueror's sword, and from her eyes the eternal's bliss shall gaze. A seed shall be sown in death's tremendous hour, a branch of heaven transplant to human soil. Nature shall overleap her mortal step. Fate shall be changed by an unchanging will. This was her boon, and the Lord of life resumed his mighty rounds in the scant field of the ambiguous globe, returning to earth with the splendid boon. He resumes his rounds on this doubtful earth. And then in the second part of the epic, the poet describes how the seasons weave their dance. It is a requirement of the epic that the poet shall describe the various seasons. And in the first canto, the birth and childhood of the flame, he describes the seasons drew in linked significant dance, the symbol pageant of the changing year. First he describes the summer. Across the burning languor of the soil paced summer with his pomp of violent noons, and stamped his tyranny of torrid light and the blue seal of a great burnished sky. Then comes rainy season. Next, through its fiery swoon or clotted knot, rain tide burst in upon torn wings of heat, startled with lightning's air's unquiet drowse, lashed with life-giving streams the torpid soil. Armies of revolution crossed the time field. The clouds' unending march besieged the world, and thunder drums announced the embattled gods. Earth was a quagmire, heaven a dismal block. None saw through dank, drenched weeks the dungeon sun. After the rainy season, earth's mood now changed. She lay in lulled repose. The hours went by with slow, contented tread. A wide and tranquil air remembered peace. Earth was the comrade of a happy sun. A calmness neared as of the approach of God. A light of musing trance lit the soil and sky. 3 thoughtful seasons passed with shining tread, and scanning one by one the pregnant hours, watched for a flame that lurked in luminous depths. That is, they are waiting for the birth of Savitri, the vigil of some mighty birth to come. Autumn led in the glory of her moons, and dreamed in the splendor of her lotus pools. And winter and dew time laid their calm, cool hands on nature's bosom, still in half sleep. Then spring, an ardent lover, leaped through leaves and caught the earth bride in his eager clasp. His advent was a fire of irised hues. His arms were a circle of the arrival of joy. His voice was a call to the transcendent sphere, whose secret touch upon our mortal lives keeps ever new the thrill that made the world. All nature was at beauty's festival. The great moment arrives when there is a full spring, as if all nature is gathered at beauty's festival. In this high signal moment of the gods, answering earth's yearning and her cry for bliss, a greatness from our other countries came. A silence in the noise of earthly things immutably revealed the secret word. A lamp was lit, a sacred image made. The child is born. The mission child is protected by angels, and the child grows. As she grows, there is a growth in the consciousness around. The muse of poets, the meditations of the seers and sages, all these acquire a new intensity. She learns the arts and sciences that were taught to the best in those times, and she grows splendidly. All people feel attracted to her. They want to follow her. She becomes the leader. And as she grows, they follow. She walked in their front towards a greater light, their leader and queen over their hearts and souls. One close to their bosoms, yet divine and far. Admiring and amazed, they saw her stride, attempting with a godlike rush and leap, heights for their human stature too remote, or with a slow, great, minute-sided toil, pushing towards aims they hardly could conceive. There was such a gulf of consciousness, gulf of being, between the best of men and Savitri as she grew, that There was no companion. Only so men worship a God too great to know, too high, too vast to wear a limiting shape. They feel a presence and obey a might, adore a love whose rapture invades their breasts, a law they follow, greatening heart and life. Open to the breath is the new diviner air. Open to man is a freer and a happier world. And yet, none came near her. No equal heart came close to join her heart. No transient earthly love assailed her calm. No hero passion had the strength to seize. No eyes demanded her replying eyes. A power within her awed the imperfect flesh. So she remained alone, and one day, when the king, her father, was sitting quiet, he hears a voice, a high voice from above. O force-compelled, fate-driven, earth-born race, O petty adventurers in an infinite world, and prisoners of a dwarf humanity, how long will you tread these circling tracks of mind around your little self and petty things? But not for a changeless littleness were you meant, not for vain repetition were you built. Out of the immortal substance you were made. The voice prods him to take some action for the release of man from his self-accepted limitations. And as the voice stops, Savitri step comes in, and he takes it as an answer. So he tells her that you have waited long, you have a destiny to fulfill. Find him with whom you have to work out the fate of man. He says, depart where love and destiny call your charm. Venture through the deep world to find thy mate. For somewhere on the longing breast of earth, thy unknown lover waits for thee, the unknown. Thy soul has strength and needs no other guide than one who burns within thy bosom spears. There shall draw near to meet thy approaching steps the second self for whom thy nature asks. He who shall walk until thy body's end, a close-bound traveller pacing with thy pace, who shall give voice to what is in thee mute. And she leaves the next day before the dawn is on. She has left. She goes in a carven wooden chariot drawn by horses. It is summer, and she passes through town and village, cities and forests, fields and brooks and rivers, stopping at night in the palaces of kings or in the hermitages of the sages, meeting none who answers to her call. And it is a destiny, carrying the destiny of man. The hooves of the horses are guided by the gods, And she goes on, meets the sages and talks to them, shares her experience. And one day, when she is passing through a forest, on the verge of a green forest, she sees a form. She was about to go, but something, there is an unknown factor, an unknown force made her look the other side, and she sees a human being, a form, on the edge of a forest. She looks. That person also turns to her. She holds the reins, stops the chariot. The man, erect like the spear of a god, he comes, looks at her wonderingly, and she says, "O sunlight molded in the form of a maid, what is thy name?" Say, "I know that gods and goddesses frequent these forests. I vainly hope you are one amongst us. How art thou known among men?" She announces herself, I am Savitri, the daughter of the king of Madhya. "And who art thou?" she asks him, interested. And, as men would always do, he breaks into a long peroration describing who he is, how he has been there from childhood, how the birds and the bees and the plants, they have all been his companions, how he has heard all the sages and things chant, how he has grown. And she hears him. She asks him, "Tell more, speak more of thyself." And he speaks. And then she looks at him. He looks. The souls recognize each other, and the union is forged. Immediately she gets down from the chariot, picks up with the deft fingers a few flowers, weaves a garland, puts it on his throbbing bosom with her shaking hands, and bows down to him. And the ancient marriage is gone through once again between the Lord and his spouse. He leads her to the hermitage where his old, exiled, blind father and his wife live, father and mother live. And she tells him that she has got to go back, tell her father, and that she would come back. And she leaves. At this moment, Narada is a divine sage of music. He is a man who has reached the divine status